welcome to In Our Community. I'm your host this evening, Mark Isaac Potter. We're visiting today with Shelley, Robin, and Nancy. They're going to be reading pieces of fiction and some poetry from different authors here in the South Bay. Shelley, would you like to start us off? Tell us maybe a little bit about yourself. I've got a bio here, but I think it'd be more fun if you told us. But keep it succinct. We got a lot of stuff to do.
All right. I'm a mother, a caregiver, a life skills coach, a chef, and an artist.
Okay. Robin?
I'm just a local mad scientist on the loose.
Local mad scientist. Nancy?
I'm a poet, tennis player, mother, artist.
Okay. So the way we'll do this is we'll have one person read one or two pieces, and then we'll maybe say a few things about it. We're trying to be sure to get everyone equal time here. Somebody's from the Greens, and no, I'm kidding. Greens and Democrats. You want to start with a piece or whatever which piece you're going to do first, or what's happening first?
Sure. I'll be reading a poem by Mark Isaac Potter, and it's called Aunt Ada. My cousin Sheila lives at the top of a hill. Today that does not help. Cowpolta and papa trees abound. No one knows what will happen next. An important person of this Kentucky part of the world has passed into the next world. Who was this great woman? She raised 3 beautiful children, saw to many wonderful grandchildren. She saw to many who were not her own, a fact that I can attest. In the cold of 1952 and 53, she took in yet 2 more, helping us along the way. We do not understand God's ways. We are not supposed to understand. It will take all of God's help and all of y'all's help to get us further down the road. Amen.
Thank you, dear, for reading that. Who wants to go next? Any pickers, choosers here? You want to read this young lady has a story that I don't want to spoil. It's very, very fun.
It's a short story. It's called Psycho. He was there, standing in the door frame. Scars and new cuts covered his body. He glared at her with a knife in his clenched hand, dripping blood. She had heard the window crashing in the yell of surprise and fear from her husband upstairs, then a struggle. She hoped Jake was still alive, and these cuts on this man were from self-defense by Jake. She started frantically looking for her cell phone, but in her panic, she couldn't remember where she put it. But the guy had suddenly appeared in the doorway. She recognized him as a man she had dated before and broke up with, but she had never seen such a furious expression on his face. She wanted to run upstairs to see if Jake was still alive, but she was blocked. "You're mine," he said to her. Her back was against the kitchen counter. "You know you belong to me and not him. What do you think you're doing, bitch? What do you think you're doing?" And beginning to scream. "Cheating on me to someone else, you betraying bitch, I'm going to kill you." She quickly thought to placate him, to calm him down. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. You know he's nothing to me. I thought you were gone. I tried to contact you." "Really? Is that all you have to say?" But his face was softening. "Yes, I never stopped loving you." He came towards her, the knife still in his hand. She cringed, but she didn't show it. He came closer and ran his other hand through her hair. She didn't move and let him kiss her. She thought what she was going to do. How could she get out of this? She remembered they used to have an old gun in the closet, but she wasn't sure, and she wasn't sure if it was loaded. "Yeah, but you're really a lying bitch, aren't you?" His face contorting back into a rage. "No, I'm not. We can let this go. If you leave, I won't call the police. Please go. I'll make up a story to the police." She was panicking bad, but tried not to show it. He lunged at her, and she ran to the kitchen closet. She waited till he was close by, and she opened the door hard with a strength and force she didn't know she had. It slammed into him, and he fell, fumbling for the gun on one shelf. Not there either. She heard him getting back up. "Please, please, please," she was thinking when she felt the hard, cold steel of the butt. Turning, she aimed the gun square in his face. "You're the one who's going to die, psycho," and blew his head off. Hearing the sirens coming down the street, she ran up the stairs. She saw her husband lying on the carpet. As she came closer, she could see he was still conscious. She fell to her knees and held his head in her lap and waited.
Thank you. It's an important story in my opinion. How long did it take you to write that one?
About 15 minutes.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went back over it.
Yeah.
Changed a little.
It's beautiful. Very beautiful. Thank you. Robin, what project do you have there?
Well, I have one of your projects that you wrote, and it's called The Janitor.
Okay. You want to read a paragraph or two for us?
I'll read I've got 3 or 4 paragraphs depending upon time, so.
Why don't you read 2 now, and then later in the show we'll do 2 more.
Okay.
That way we don't, we don't want to leave you out later.
The janitor walked in such a purposefully straight trajectory, shoulders back. The whole of his being is expressed in the rare straightness of line from the top of his head, tunneling through his spine, through the torso, legs, and down through to the feet. Even the binding on his, even the binding that forms the back of his work boots. Gravitation is not considered, nor the teacher's students' curriculum, nor the respect or recent change in the school's name.
And you and I were discussing this story earlier.
Right.
You were telling me what you really think of the story. What do you really think of it?
Well, the thing about it is, let's take this paragraph. It gives a very, very, very good description of something, his physical being. Mm-hmm. It also implies various things like military training. This is as far as you've read. Where I have a little difficulty is the gravitational portion. I can see, stopping at a certain point, but adding the teacher's curriculum and recent change in the school's name, that has nothing to do with the way a person stands.
You said you found it confusing earlier.
Yeah,
right?
that line throws the confusion into it.
I think it's important to point out that fiction can have things in it that we may not even want to be there, like confusion, absurdism, surrealism. So,
okay,
and then we'll let somebody else read, and we'll come back to you after a while.
Okay,
Shelley, you got something else for us?
I have 2 written by Mark Potter. I read them together because I feel as though there's an undying love for both of them, however tragic on one and endearing on the other. The first one's called Understanding. I do not expect you to understand. Very few people can see the clear blue in a field of blue glass, or the blue way back behind a girl's eye when her teenage man goes off to war. Mother made blackberry cobbler that last night before Tom went off to war. What we got back 4 years and 3 days later was a man with no arms and legs who opens his mouth to be fed. This next poem is called Concerto. The lack of elasticity of cheap socks makes Grandma sink deeper into her nightgown. Early in the morning, she makes Grandpa hot chocolate. It spills all over the counter. She pulls her white socks back up, and she makes the hot chocolate again, divinely. Grandpa glows in the morning light and sits up in bed like an old conductor, ready to create a concerto.
Thank you, dear. If I weren't the host, we could talk about that. Nancy, you got a poem or 2 for us over there, please?
Yeah, this one's called Last Tango. Led me by the hands, passionate dance, across the floor, flying out, twirling back, whipped about, steps and staccato weathered together apart, such confliction in my heart. No fight anymore, I slumped to the floor, draped across your feet, a tear going down my cheek. And And
can you read another one for us?
yeah, this one's called Stolen Identity. Beware love knocking on your door, announcing itself loudly. Could be stolen identity, turning into a footprint in wet sand. Flippant waves wash away. A sanctuary in the desert crumbling to sand. A sure well mystifyingly dry, dropping that bucket again and again. Or a passage turning into a wall over and over, leaving you robbed.
Thank you. And my understanding is you have your poetry online somewhere at a place that's free.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little about that?
Without mentioning the website? Or?
You can mention the name of the website because it's a nonprofit place, I think.
Well, there's poetry.com, and then I found another one that I like better, Writers Cafe, where you can write any kind of writing you want to write.
Okay, so there are places out there for poets like us who don't get published.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, what should we do next? Shelle, you want to do a piece or two there? Then we'll go back to Robin.
All right. This one reminds me of Thanksgiving, so I think it's a little bit appropriate.
Okay.
It's called Harvesting. It's not like Grandma Smitty could mash the potatoes with her feet. Grandpa was a great one for rigging up gadgets and such. He took an old Singer sewing machine and made it so as you could put Grandma's biggest metal bowl in it, this cradle, and move the pedal in order to stir things or make mashed potatoes. It had a lot of uses. All the ladies liked to try it on a Sunday after church for cake fixings or during thrashing time for mashing potatoes. When the men of the Northern Nebraska Farming Cooperative moved through the fields with the combine, like ghosts harvesting clothing to wear in the next life.
Thank you. Let's give Robin a shot here on two of those paragraphs.
Okay. As a janitor, one faces a lot. The disgusting toilet, of course, every janitor's magistrate. The backed up sink, yes, but also the coffee pot in the teacher's lounge and the ubiquitously stained carpet. About once a year, the coffee pot in the teacher's lounge simply blows up. This is accomplished by leaving the empty coffee pot on a hot burner. It would not be fair to mention that one year a teacher was cut in the face by flying glass.
Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm going to pull a little surprise on y'all. You've heard the other people read. So give your opinion about what the other two people have been reading. I'll start with you, Shelley.
And then we'll start with Robin.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I don't mind. I truly enjoyed the work that you did read. Didn't find it as confusing as some of the ones I was reading. And yours also seemed to me to be slightly less confusing than what I wrote. I mean, what Mark.
He's me. He plays me on television.
Yes.
So
rare instance that we're twins, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. So, Nancy, I'm interested to know the process that you use when you first get inspired. Like, how does a piece of art, a poem, or a story come to you?
Well, this story, Psycho, is actually on writerscafe.com, and they gave you the first two lines, and then you had to write it from there, which I liked. I thought it was fun. Okay. And poetry, I either have an idea or a sentence that comes to me, and a lot of times I forget to write it down.
So then you lose it, huh? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And tell me about your interaction with these pieces over the last few weeks or so, because you've had them in your hands for a couple weeks, maybe. Yeah. So what's been the process of getting to know them enough to read them properly and such?
I do like reading and telling short stories and that type of thing. What I was trying to find is something that I thought would pertain to, with these stories, Veterans Day, which is November, and also the Thanksgiving. So I liked pulling those ideas in. I thought the girlfriend with the boyfriend man going to war was difficult to read, but very important, very to the point, spot on, perfect.
Okay.
So in a small poem, you can get so much out of it. So I liked that one. That it was hard, but very effective.
And I'll let the audience at home know that the first piece that Shelley read was for my Aunt Ada, who passed recently, and she had been one of the mother figures in my life. And so Shelley and I both, I think we had dinner somewhere and talked about the poems. We were both quite taken with reading that one, and I asked permission of the family to read it, and you were quite touched to want to read that, so I appreciate that very much.
Well, she just sounded like a lovely woman.
Yeah.
To just bring in compassion.
Yeah.
Sure, come on in. I can take 2 more.
Yeah.
Love is endless.
Yeah.
So I thought that, you had fond memories, and I think the poem was wonderful.
Yep. Very, very true. Robin, do you have some more there on that story you're working on?
Okay. When Julian, it's not noted, but Julian is the janitor's name.
Oh, okay.
When Julian was 5 years old, his parents were killed in a random knife attack. His mother's jewelry was taken. His father's leather wallet evaporated. Immediately, Julian spent a night or 2 in Child Protective Services until his uncle could not only be located but encouraged to come and take the boy. Once Julian got to the approximate middle of Uncle Art's dining room, he fell into a chair, into a deep sleep. His head buried. Sorry, I'm not wearing contacts tonight.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
I'm honestly not wearing contacts. Buried inadvertently, I think, into Occupational Outlook Handbook, a nearly useless behemoth that Uncle left open to help clean up the fish.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm sitting there trying.
So the book got a use that didn't originally get intended by its publishing, huh?
Well, the thing I'm looking at is I would have my, even though I'm a mad scientist, I have my doubts about buying a huge book and tearing the pages out to clean fish.
But do you remember the old saying, I think it was on the East Coast, maybe New York, where this came from, since I happen to know the guy that wrote this story. People used to buy newspapers that were not the best newspaper in town,
and they wrapped
for the purpose of wrapping fish.
Right, but
so I took that and twisted it a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there looking, the paper's least inexpensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
but that's where the twist is. Here's this book that is supposed to help you find a job, and instead he's using it to wrap fish. So anyway. Do you have something else for us over there?
Yeah. This one is called The Divide. Happy and sad people just don't relate, and nowhere near have the same fate. Sad people left alone, voices of anguish echo groan. Across the divide, the great unknown, just dissipate in the heat. Someday can these 2 groups meet, build a bridge across the divide, solving the world's problems far and wide, celebrating a bridge of God-given life.
Thank you. So when you're creating, I know you don't write per se, but I know you create divine dinners for your
family.
Well spoken. Tell us about that. When you're getting ready to make a new creation, just like whoever wrote these was doing, how would you go about it? What would you do? What's your process?
I would probably start the way poets do, with a certain idea that you have in mind. I've been cooking ever since I was 5 or 6, and have enjoyed it, and through the process of different food intolerances, I've gotten quite creative with what to mix and match. So you start with something. A lot of times you look in the fridge and say, what's in there? Okay, come on out and let's play. And you can just put it together, and then you say, all right, well, what type of seasonings and how do you want it? And it turns out pretty well.
Do you remember the time that you made a very special French dessert? Do you remember that?
For you?
You didn't make it for me. You were making it for some other people that were coming over to your place. But it was like, it was out of a very elegant cookbook, and it took several days to make it.
The hazelnut 7-layer cake.
Tell us about that process, because we were on the phone a lot those days, and I was going, am I going to get a, no, this is for someone else. Tell us about that process, because it was a really elegant dish that obviously took a long time.
Right, so a 7-layer cake, and then putting in the filling and toasting the hazelnuts and doing the cream and doing this. I mean, there were several steps and several days to do it.
You were reading part of the cookbook to me on the phone, I think, saying, after this and that and this.
And you could possibly make it in a day if you started early.
Yeah, pretty
But
challenging.
it turned out lovely, delicious, tasty. I'm glad I made it, and it was worth it.
Very cool. Yeah. Very, very cool. All right, Robin, you're up. Read some more, please.
Okay. Julian seemed to catch kids as the flash pushed them through the auditorium window into the raging.
So there was a flood, right?
Well, see,
he's now rescuing these kids.
Yeah, but see, that was not actually put into this. I'm reading it as.
Okay. Okay. The reader has to pick up on that.
Right.
Okay.
But you're right. There was a flash flood, which does happen. I'm familiar with those. And the playground was, the water hit this building. It looks like kids were flying out the window because of the pressure of the water.
Right.
Into a lake that, like you said, was the playground. One by one, he saved a dozen, then 2 dozen. These young people lived because Julian saved them. Other teens did not survive. The firestorm of angry parents, fangs raged, wanting to know why their child wasn't saved.
Yes. So in this story, what happens is, this guy is a janitor. He's good at his job. He's well liked. Flash flood comes along. He saves these kids, and then the result of him saving these kids is a huge amount of anger from the parents whose children he couldn't save.
Yeah, which tells me something about the parents, because he obviously would have saved everyone had he had the ways and means.
Right.
Well, isn't that just an emotional reaction?
Yeah, people and their families don't even go there.
They probably wouldn't be like that, except that,
it's their children.
It immediately happened, and they would be,
Yeah. Now, what we find out later in the story, which is not there yet, we're not going to get that far, is that some parents hung on to that anger for a long time and tried to work behind the scenes to get rid of Julian at the school. And go ahead.
He was doing his job.
He was doing his job and doing it rather well.
Well, actually, no, this wasn't even his job. This was above and beyond.
Well, the saving children, certainly. It's because not the janitors.
The paragraph before this talked about Julian nearly drowning, and it was confirmed once I read more of the story that Julian was trained by the United States Navy.
Yeah.
So the point being, he would have been an excellent swimmer. You know, he was hit. He managed to pull himself out,
right.
and when he got to a position where he could help others,
yep.
he did.
And I didn't see a lot of the teachers in there helping the kids either. By the way, only the janitors seemed to come in and do a primary job.
Well, in one aspect, it could be true or not. It depends upon where you are, because
yep.
when water rises,
yep.
it can be,
Yeah.
I mean, you could just as easily be in the throne room with the water.
Let's start a little bit of a wrap up. We're farther toward the end than we were in the beginning.
Right.
So, tell us some thoughts of yours about this event, or what would you say to someone who's trying to write something? What would you tell them? Because, writers get things like writer's block, or they think of a project that they imagine to be too big for their schedule. So how would you encourage people that are creative, writers, cooks, sculptors, photographers?
Well, we're all on a journey. Marc has very diverse poems, and they can come from all over, everywhere. We have so many different emotions within us, and whether that just gets displayed in an art form or an intellectual form or whatnot, you can stick with it, and it's always easy in what you're finding that doesn't work, and it's not always easy for that to be creative too. How can you go about doing something different, altering, and then sometimes that even comes out better.
Okay. Nancy, we just have like 1 minute left, so just some final thoughts.
Well, I went to a museum one time, and there was a quote. I forget the artist, and he said, when you're doing a painting, you have to be Pollyanna, which means you always keep in mind what's working, and that it's going to continue to work and continue to be good. And,
All right. And Robin, it's got to be short because we only have a few
The scariest thing you'll face is that blank piece of paper. The best way to do it is, even if it's off your subject, start writing something. Then once the process starts, you can move into it, and then you can throw out or move what you don't need.
Okay.
Or lay it down and start later.
Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Thank you so much for having us come into your home. We appreciate it very much. I want to thank the crew, the staff here at KMVT Television, and you have a wonderful holiday season.